Jack is originally from Valdosta. He worked. He worked around the country. He worked on fishing in the Gulf. He worked catching gators. He worked. Then he went out west and he worked fishing in Alaska, and then he ended up in Idaho and Montana. And all through his life, he has made these unique creations. And this is one of the rare times that you'll be able to see so many of them in one place, and to have the man who made them tell you about how they were created and about what they mean. So, with no more, Jack McKey, the show is all yours.
Thank you, Tom. I appreciate that. Folks, we sure thank you for coming. I certainly welcome all of you, believe you me. A lot of you are friends. A lot of you, most of you are, and certainly friends I hold close to my heart. Thank you for coming. I'm going to try to get through this thing. We'll do the best we can. This is the last one I'm going to do, believe me. We'll probably make it through that 2 hours. Let's just see. I got to get down here and find some starting points. And the first thing a child learned to do was to make something, tie something together with. You can't do anything if you don't have string, rope, something. You've got to be able to tie things together. You couldn't build your lodges, you couldn't build your houses, couldn't build anything if you couldn't tie something together. A lot of cases you couldn't pack meat out of the woods. That's back like in dog days when people had to walk everywhere they went. And a lot of the stuff that they used to do that with, this is some cordage right here. I can pass it around and let you see some of it, but this is a good piece of cordage, and it's made from the inner bark of cedar, western cedar, right here. So I'm gonna pass this around and let you see it. Pull on it. You ain't gonna hurt it, and I'll guarantee you. That's just one of them. I wished I had some more, but I've used up most of my stuff, and a lot of it came from the inner bark of maple. Makes a good inner bark cordage. Spanish dagger, centennial plant, makes a wonderful cordage, real strong. Stinging nettle makes a wonderful cordage. Once you get past the stinging, but it does work. Here's some more cordage that was used. This is bear gut. This is black bear gut. It was used for many, many things. Our people sewed saddles up with it when they first went west. Indians had already been sewing saddles up with it. They used it for harpoon line, for catching like salmon and, whatever. Anything you needed a harpoon or a lister spear for, that's the line they used. They used it down here when they went to harpoon porpoise and manatee, which they ate. They used a harpoon line for that. And a lot of times it was used this. I've got some more down here too. There's some right there. While we're just talking about it, I'll show it to you. This is some of it right here. That's harpoon line right there. You can harpoon and hold a whale with that. It's pretty good stuff. It works, believe me. All right, then, and let's see, here's some other stuff right here. This is Georgia sinew right here. This is the deer leg. This is what you pound. You hammer that and roll it between your hands till it breaks apart. Then you peel it and start stripping it. And then when you get through with it, you begin to get something like this. You begin to get a fuzzy looking stuff kind of like this. And these are the strands that you use to make the strands to sinew back a bow with, or you made cordages, ropes, and string. Little kids, 2 years old, used to use this to learn how to make that, so they could learn how to work on other things, other barks and stuff. But they had to learn the technique, they had to learn the technology. That's the first thing they did. Little kids were running around with a bare leg. You can't roll this stuff on a leg with a legging over it, or even a pair of Levi's. It won't roll. You got to bare your leg to roll this stuff and make it roll up tight enough. When you release it, it'll spin. And you can do this in just a few minutes. You'll have a piece of cord that long. So it's a pretty handy technology to know and a good thing to do. Now, this is leg sinew. We used to pound this to put on our bows. This is backstrap sinew, what is called a side. All of this has been used a little bit, but you can peel just a tiny little piece of this stuff. You can peel just a tiny piece of this. Can you guys see this down there? You can peel just a tiny piece of this and start beginning to make up some of this. You can actually use this in the full strip if you're putting it on a bow back to strengthen that bow. Works pretty good. That was a starter. That was your sewing thread. That was everything I got. I think, what have I got in here? This looks like elk sinew. Yeah. See if I can get my hands on it. Yeah. All right, yeah, okay. This is elk sinew is what this is. You see the difference in it? How much longer it is? But that's what that is. That come from elk or moose, one of the two. It's hard to tell right now which one it came from, but that's what it is. A little bit more fun to work with. You get through with your job a whole lot quicker. All right, now, what's it? Oh, that's it, Georgia sinew. Okay, now, when you need to get other cordages, there is a cordage out there that we all forget about. We go out in the forest and we look at the trees. What we see is a standing trunk, and sometimes we even look at the limbs. Oh man, that's the forest, that's the woods. Well, there's another part. It's the root section that goes underground. Makes some of the best cordage in the world. A lot of those roots from a lot of those plants can be dug up with something just like that so it doesn't damage the root. And you cut it in length sometimes as long as 30 feet. And you start at the top of it. Well, first you build a fire. Let the fire burn down till there's nothing but just pretty, I will call them hot ashes, but that's about all you want to call them. And you take that root, you coil it up, put it on the fire for just a little bit. While you're doing that, you cut a stick, and all probably yay high, take some of that and tie it around that far down the stick, then split the stick, drive it in the ground, and then split the stick. Reach over there and get that bark, get that root, and start at the small end, and you drag it through that, and it completely strips the bark off of it. And when that's done, you begin to split that root, and you can split that 30-foot root all the way down just slick as a whistle. Now you got 60 feet of cordage. You can do a lot. This is how birch bark canoes were sewed together. This is how those, I don't want to call them a wigwam. It was those bark houses that were built up north on the East Coast. This is how they were sewn together on the sides. Some of the roof panels were sewed that way. It's a good material. It lasts, it holds up. When you put it in the fire, it causes the wood to turn white. And you can use it and dye it, stain it, do anything you want to. You can control it. And it's absolutely beautiful. A lot of it will turn pure white, and you can even weave hats out of it. You can weave baskets out of it so dense that you can hold water in them. And they usually smeared a little bit of a pine pitch over that on the inside. It wouldn't leak at all. You can walk around, hold water, and hold a gallon of water or 2 or 3 gallons of water with it. A pretty handy thing, but it took technique and it took knowledge. It took a lot of technology to do that. And you had to go by the numbers, A, B, C, 1, 2, 3. Once you did that, you did a good job. You could make anything you wanted to. And not only that, it didn't matter how old you were, what your sex was, or anything. Everybody in those tribes could do it. If that was one of their technologies, they could do it. Starting about 2 years old, they began to learn all that. And it wasn't long before they too could start weaving baskets and whatever from every kind of material in the world. Awful good stuff. One of the things I use, this is a stone hammer. This is what I pound sinew with. I also use this to drive teepee pegs with, so that blame teepee cover will hold up. It works. But now, where it came from, one day I had a colt out there that I couldn't catch. He was aggravating. So I went and got a stone, and I chipped the groove all the way around that stone and tied a piece of rawhide on that thing, softened the rawhide a little bit, and finally got him caught one day, pinned him, hemmed him up, and got him caught. I tied that on his front leg, and I turned him loose. Every time I'd walk out there to him, he'd take off. That stone would fly up and hit him in the belly, wrap around his legs, throw him on the ground, and I'd just still come walking. And it wasn't long, just a few hours. I could walk right straight up to that colt and put my hands on him anytime I wanted to. Well, I left that stone on him for 3 days. And he found out what walking meant. It helped me out quite a bit, believe me. I told that colt I was too old to run, too fat to fly. I didn't have time to chase him all over the world. All right, brain tan. This is some brain tan leather up here. Y'all can pass this around and feel of it. Yeah, that's some brain tan moose hide is what this is. That's what they made a lot of them moccasins out of. A lot of clothing was made from that. But that process is framing and scraping the flesh off, get the flesh straight off, and then you find some source of lime. And you soak that hide in lime. And once that hide begins to swell and turn blue, you take it out of that lime and go wash it out in a pond. Running water's the best, but you get it to wash out. And once that's done, you can take it back on that frame and let it dry a little. If you want to scrape the hair off of it, you could do it then, or you could have done it before you put it in the lime, whatever you wanted to do. I like to do it beforehand. But you get that hair off like that, get it in the lime. Once it's out of the lime, then you can put the brains to it. You take your brains and you cover them with water in a container and you heat them up till they boil, just boil real slight on the top. They'll turn gray. Now, before you do that, you got to squish it all in your hands. Get all them brains squished up. It'll kind of make a slight paste, but it'll make a real watery kind of a paste. And you can paint that on with a paintbrush, actually. Rub it on with your hand. I like to rub it in with a rock. And when that hide, you'll know when that hide absorbs all that brain. It'll just go completely lax on you. It'll just slack on you. Then I like to take it and roll it up, put it in the refrigerator. In the old days, they buried them underground where it was cool and let them sit overnight. It was called casing. It allowed the oils in the brain, the moisture, water that was with it, that permeated that hide. When you roll it up and let it cool, all of that stuff goes throughout every fiber in that material, in that hide. So when you take it out, you put it back on the frame. Here comes your buddy. You take that thing and you start rubbing that hide. What you're doing is stretching it all over, back and forth. You can take the hide and turn it up this way. Run that moisture out. Get all that water out of that hide. And the more you do it, the drier that hide gets. When it's completely dry, and when I say completely dry, I mean dearly from can to can't. You can't stop. Once it starts, that process starts, you got to completely finish that hide. Now, when you talk about a 36 square foot moose hide, you need a lot of help. Buffalo hide's the same way. It takes more than one person to do it. That was one of the reasons a lot of those old boys had 5 wives. One wife, yeah, one wife could tan 10 buffalo hides a year. 5 wives, 100, plus all the smaller hides in between. So they were quite handy. 5 women were pretty useful. we didn't learn much. This is just some of the stuff that was made from them. This is a pair of moccasins with a hard sole on them. You can pass these around and you can get an idea. Y'all can get an idea what this is all about. But this pair of moccasins right here is exactly the same moccasin that the Blackfeet would go from the Canadian border all the way down to Mexico, walking down through the Rocky Mountains, okay? It was a 7-year journey, going down and coming back and spending the time they went down there for, which was lance points. They were after them lance points, which were basically Spanish swords. And here's another pair right here. This is the pair I wear all the time. I've been all over the world in these things. These moccasins were built in 1984. They're still as good as they were. I've worn them a lot. You can pass these around and let them look at it. That's a side seam moccasin. It's a soft sole moccasin. It's a snow moccasin. This moccasin actually began where the glaciers came down, the edge of the glaciers, and where people could walk and live close to the glaciers. That's the moccasin that they wore. They also developed the same thing I got on my feet, but it had a top on it. It had a vamp, which was just well, I'll walk out there, a little bit of a tongue-looking thing like I've got on here, and it had a top that come up to your knees, all right? That was called a Yukon moccasin boot, is what it was. But that's the white man just developed something that looked like it, and you've seen it all your life. But that's where that came from. That's basically a Yukon-style moccasin. Let's see. Well, here's some more stuff. Here's some stuff that was made. This is some of the fur that was tanned, brain tanned. There's a rawhide bill on this cap. This is my winter cap for Alaska in the Yukon. This is what I wore right here. This will give you an idea. I'll just pass this down. Y'all can just pass her. Kind of give you an idea. Put it on your head if you can get it to fit. It feels good. Huh?
You get to keep it if it fits.
No, I wouldn't do that. No. Here's some other stuff you can take a look at. This is some of the stuff we have to work with.
What's the fur?
That's otter.
Otter?
Yep. Otter and moose, yeah. Yeah, ain't that something? You got to work with that.
Yes.
You know? We'll do something. Yeah, we'll do it, yeah. Okay, now, how do you flesh a hide? Here it is, right here. Here's some out of deer. Here's some right here is elk. This is elk, this is moose. You take this tool right here, that's what it looks like right there. That tool will flesh a hide faster than any tool I've ever seen in my life. That felt will just roll off that hide as you chop it down with this thing. It works. That goes way back in time. This is all they had. There ain't a knife in this world that'll flesh a hide like this bone will. All you got to do is put it to work. Elbow grease, yeah. This is some I've been using lately. This is deer. This is made from deer. This is just a bone ready to go to work. This has been made, I've even chipped a tooth out of this one. But they work pretty good. They just kind of handy. They will get that flesh off that hide, believe me. All right, let's see, I'll put you all back in here. Yeah. Here's another little piece of hide that was put under pressure. This will be made into a knife case. But that's what that kind of looks like, feels like, and all that, yeah. That's buffalo too, by the way. All right, now, what's Betty got me? See, here's another one of them tools right here. All right, yeah, here's another one made from elk right here. I don't know what Betty's doing that blowing that. Well, now, How would you cut the hide? How would you make your stuff? Here it is. You start out right here with a spall. You got to cut and you got to knock blades off this thing, all right? Where's my tools? There they are over there, all right? Now, I've got some bifaces up here. The first thing is you'd use this moose baton right here. You take that stone, where's my stone? There it is, all right? You take that stone right here, you rub that edge right there. You get that edge dull, all right? It's not sharp. Just get it dull, all right? And you take that baton, I'm not gonna do that in here, but you take that baton, you hold that stone at 120 degrees, and you hit that thing, you'll shear a blade off, and it'll be sharper than any blade you have ever seen in your life. They pick that thing up, and that's what they use to cut the brain tan material out of for making their clothing, making everything they had, all right? Sometimes they can make points. That napping process is quite a process. Sometimes they get away from the baton too quick. You see, these are all smaller batons, and you use them as you're working your stone, especially when you start making points. You know, you just do this a little at a time, and you'll knock that stuff off long before you start taking a antler and napping the point. There's a thing you hold in your hand right here. I always ran my thumb through that. Put that in the palm. I'd lay a biface like this, for instance, in there. That biface is in there like that. You see that? That's so you'll cut your hand all to pieces. And then you put that piece on there and start putting pressure to it. But that's a long time away. You use that baton till you get this thing down to where it's better to nap with. And that little antler right there will nap some of the most beautiful points you ever saw in your life. It's just all in taking the time, go through the process, go through the technology, and just do it right. That's all. Yeah. What did I do? Oh, there it is right there. We use all different types of antler points to do stuff like that. Now, another cutting tool that was available to them, and it was for a long time, that was beaver teeth. They made a crooked knife from beaver teeth, had a handle on it. Where'd that tooth go to? There it is right there, all right? That's what this is. Can you guys see these things? Let's see. Can you guys see these things? These are beaver teeth, all right? They're sharpened. There we go, thank you. They'd sharpen the part where the beaver was hitting it on his bottom teeth and beveling it down. They'd put a sharp edge on that thing. They use that for carving all kind of tools. They used it to carve the canoe ribs with, everything. And then finally, somebody from Europe came along and had something called steel. That changed the whole world. Yes, it did. They learned about that real quick. And they also learned how to work it. Let's see, where am I at? All right, and that was the napping stuff. Oh, this piece of obsidian right here, that's green obsidian. It only comes from one place in the world, and that would be like Hawaii. Let me think. Maybe it's California.
Oregon.
Where is it?
Oregon.
Oregon? Okay. Hawaiians, we think, came to the coast of California. They got some of this stuff, and they found a lance point way up at one of the volcanoes that they always worshiped in Hawaii. So it was proof that they had visited, you know, the west coast of America. We thought California. The reason? The Chumash that lived down there built a canoe from short planks that was tied together with coconut fiber. Well, the only place that's done is in the Polynesian areas. So they got to really looking at that real close. The boat was identical to the hulls that the Hawaiians built, and they pretty much are confirmed that the Hawaiians did make it to North America. Kind of interesting deal. Fairly interesting deal. There was a lot of people probably did that we don't know about. Let's see. Okay, that was through that in the bottom. And there we go. Now, I guess you guys walked up here and saw a lot of these points, didn't you? There's some of the big points. This is the bear knife point right here. As far as I know, this is the only one in existence in the world. I napped that myself. I talked to an old boy that actually talked about Blackfeet when they had the bear knife with the stone blade. He knew all about it. Had owned the bear knife. This was given to them by the Sarcee in the Canadian mountains up around 100 Mile House. It was given to the Blackfeet. It's one of these things that it has a lower jaw from a black bear for a handle. And then the about 13 eagle feathers hung off of it with some bells, and like little sleigh bells and stuff. A man that had that, if he approached an enemy with that thing, that enemy was so afraid of this thing, he'd just go to his knees. He'd just let the man kill him. Mostly the man wouldn't kill him. He'd just take his weapon, make a coup, and that would be done. He earned the feather that day. Probably one of the most important things they could do is take a man's weapon and strike a coup. If he wanted to take a hair, watch his hair grow on a stick, he could have done it. Probably did. But he left him alive. The killing of each other wasn't that important. It was the taking, to take away his weapons, take away the things he needed to support himself with and fight you with. If he couldn't fight you, you were in good shape and he was helpless. That's the way they wanted things. As they fooled with each other. All right, now, here's a point right here. This is called an Alberta swamp point right here. This is the type point that was used at the Piskin. A lot of the boys, maybe this size or so, 13, 14, up to 16 or so, would help old men like me. When they run the buffalo over the cliff and the buffalo fell down into the Piskin, they'd break their bones. They couldn't get out of the Piskin. It was just framed up and everything, fence, big wall. And this was put on usually like an alder pole. It could have been a lodge pole, pine pole. It wasn't anything fancy, but they would stab them with this until that animal bled down and died. And that's the warriors, the young men, they were up there running more buffalo over. But the old men and the kids were down there doing this. And of course, the women didn't even get involved until all that was over with. They stayed out of the way. But that was kind of a neat thing. Here's the point you probably looked at. It's a ceremonial point. And it's patterned after a point that was found at Cahokia Mounds. It's obsidian, and this is about as fine a napping as you'll ever want to see. But then I think y'all saw this walking around looking at this stuff. But that's obsidian point. It's black obsidian. But it's ceremonial, and I'll use it for the same thing, no doubt. There's a lot of points up here that were just utility points. You just knocked them out real quick when you needed something. That's some of these points along the table that are lined up. Points like that, they're not very good, but they work. we kind of like that. I have some up here that are good. Here's one right here. This is a nice point right here. And this is the type that I used all the time for hunting elk, moose, grizzly bear. It didn't matter, black bear. That is a point right there. That'll do some damage. And I'll show you some on these arrows down here after a bit. But that's what that is. This was a dart point, or it could have been the type of lance for dispatch. In other words, you wound an animal and track him for 3 days, all right? You may take a point like that, just on a stick, and dispatch that animal. After you found him, he wore himself down. He's so weak he can't run. This is the type point you do that with. Some of these points were actually found on functional shafts of atlatl darts. They're a little bit wider than a normal point, but they were very effective. It's quite an outfit. Let's see, where'd I get it? There it was. All right, now, yeah, all right, now. Yeah, I better get in that chair over here. Now. Now then, oh, get that pressure off. Woo! All right, now, here's one I dearly love. This is a lance point, and it could be a knife point, whatever you needed at the time. One of the beauties of a point like this is if it had to be used on a human being, and you meant to kill him, what you'd actually do is stick it in him and break it. That would have had to have been a very, he would have to do something like that very bad for some kind of a reason to do that, because the object was not to kill anybody. It was just to take his stuff. But that is a gorgeous point. And it's very functional. It's as functional today as it's ever been in the life of these things. I just hope we don't have to use them again one day. Things keep going like they're going, we may be right back to this, guys. And the exposure of it is pretty handy. Knowing how to do it is even better. Yeah, and here's the point here I like. This is a spear point. This right here was actually used for men. It's a man killer. Buffalo, they could do that with that, but normally they wouldn't use something like this to kill a buffalo with. Everybody thinks they had all these bad lances for killing buffalo. All they did was they'd go through a cedar swamp, find these nice slender cedars about 2 inches in diameter at the butt. They'd cut them, peel them, let them dry a little bit with the campfire. They'd take the end of them and put in the fire and kind of burn them a little bit. And what that did was it hardened the wood. The cellulose in between the layers of wood, which we call early wood, would shrink. So what you wound up with was all late wood. So the end of that thing was a hard late wood piece of wood. Tempered, it was tempered. Then they could rub that thing down till they had a point on the end of that pole that looked like that. It was just out of wood. Well, they'd get on that horse and they'd run down that buffalo. They'd catch that buffalo under the short ribs and try to stay up above the paunch and run that pole in there and then try to ride by him as hard as they could and break it. If they did that, there was no way for that buffalo to pull that thing out. In 3.5 seconds, that buffalo would fall. That's how quick that worked. It was better than a rifle. A rifle won't put one down that quick. That was quite a deal. There were some that did use points like this, but mostly that's a man killer. Could also even be a knife. You could even make it into a knife if you needed to. And the thing of it is, you do that just simply by wrapping a material around the end of it. There's nothing special. You don't have to fabricate anything. You just do a wrap on it. You got something worthwhile right there. You got something to do some work, something to do some damage. Quite a nice point. All right, let's see. Oh, here's my bone point. All right, now, this is a bone point. This is a very dense bone that come off the back leg of an animal. Can anybody guess what animal? How about coastal brownie? Right there. Grizzly bear bone. That made one whale of a lance point right there. This was used all the time, especially around southeast Alaska and even inland they use this. A lot of those Indians got along so good with each other, they hardly ever even carried weapons. They'd carry a knife, but that's about the extent of it. As far as, dealing with people, they were so well fed, the food came to their front door. The salmon migrations came to the front door, and they didn't have to do a lot of work. Grizzly bear didn't have to do a lot of work. Grizzly bear eat and get fat. He was satisfied. He didn't want to fight. He wanted to eat. And those Indians were the same way. They could put up a lot of fish for the winter. They could sit through one of them winters up there and be just as comfortable as we are in our own houses today. They knew how to live, believe you me. But this is one of the weapons that they used. When they got a bear, they'd use a deadfall. That was a accepted way to catch a bear up there. Was they'd build a deadfall with the log that came down and broke the bear's back, neck, or something like that. If he was still alive when they got to the trap, to the deadfall, they used his own bone as a lance to kill him with. They didn't like to stick holes all through those hides. They did because they could sew them back up when they tanned them. But those hides made some of the most fantastic blankets for your bed you ever saw in your life. They're thin, they're lightweight, they got all that hair on them, and you can turn those things toward your body and it forms a pocket underneath there, and you'll sleep just as warm, and it's not too warm. And we're talking about 25 below zero, You just lay there and sleep like a king. Yeah. It's pretty nice. But that's what that is. Yeah, I like that little old point. Here's a little point right here that was made from, it's a flint. Okay, this is a flint. In fact let me think a minute. What's that boy's name? I think he made this and sent this to me. I'll think of it in a minute. But there's a nice little knife. It's still as sharp now as it was when the boy made it. I didn't make that knife. He sent that to me. Scott Silsby. He's up around New Jersey. He's got the quarry. He knows where the quarry of Greenstone is. And boy, I'll tell you what, Greenstone is one more step from being jade. That's good stuff. That you can nap it, you can scrape it and rub it to a shape. All right, now here's a point. All right, now that's chalcedion. This is the knife Betty loves. It's got a cottonwood handle, and it's made up in such a way that when you use it, there is no shock whatsoever to your hand. This thing came about, I was kind of on a canoe trip down the Yukon, and I pulled my boat over. I'm getting kind of tired, it's late. I pulled my boat over on a bar, canoe, and when I got out and took my gear out and I put it up on the bank, you don't ever build a camp on the bar itself. You get up above that thing. That dirt's always falling down, and usually it'll fall on you. So you get up above it, and I did, and I noticed there was some activity going on over here in the woods back, maybe 100 or so yards. So naturally you're interested enough to go look. Well, there was an old man back there holding a ceremony with a boy. He must have been about 18. And that ceremony was to end up to draw a grizzly bear in, and that boy was to take that grizzly with that knife. You think about it. Well, that broke that ceremony up. I'm a white man. White man got no power. I broke that ceremony up when I walked in there to it. And of course I apologized for it and all that. And started to leave. And the old man told me, he said, no, son, you stay. You learn about us. So I did, and he went through the ceremony. Then they went out for the bear. I didn't go out for that. But the kid did. And they lured the bear in, and the kid got down behind some birch. You know, birch will usually go like with 3 trunks of a tree in a little wad there. Kid got down behind that darn thing. That bear came through down that trail. He could hear him coming, and he could also feel his fur on his left hand. That told him where his kidneys were, all right? When that bear came down that trail and rubbed that hair where his hand was, that boy stuck that doggone knife right in that bear's kidney. The first thing the bear did was slap, all right? Well, he hit the tree, and it broke the bear's wrist. Bear's in trouble now. And he also sat down. When you hit one of them in the kidneys, the first thing he does, he'll sit flat down on his behind. You got about 30 to 45 seconds to kill him. Well, they weren't even out to kill him. They just wanted to make him mad. And they just wanted that kid to get power, gain power, become a young man. And that was what that was all about. They did not kill the bear. I think later they went in, the old man I think later went in. After I left, I think he did go in and kill it. That was a wounded bear, especially with that broken foot. He could have been trouble to somebody. So I think the old man did. I don't know it for a fact, but I'm pretty sure he did, knowing the way those people think. But anyway, that's what was used right there. I came home, I made that point right there and fashioned that little knife the same way the other one was made. The old man told me all about how it was made, showed me everything about it. So I came home and made one. But that's what that is. This is Betty's favorite knife. She loves this one. All right, my little girl. All right, now we can get into some of the fishing stuff. How many know what a lister spear is? Anybody in here that knows what a lister spear is? All right, it's for catching bigger fish, big salmon, mullet, anything. There it is. It was used all over the world. It wasn't just a east-west type thing. It was used all over the world. You'd hit a fish this way. The fish would impale himself on the prongs. The prongs would spread to let him in, and then they'd come back, and he couldn't get out. He's done for. You got your fish right there. That's what that is. That's a head for a lister spear, and you can put it on any length of pole you want to. It was used on lodgepole pine a lot. Anything anybody had, alder pole, whatever you could find, they'd use that lister spear. Some of the stuff that they used to catch fish with, this thing right here kind of made a pretty good fishing reel. You got your cord on there. You see how the cord went on that. You'd have a little stick that you could put on like this, and it would spin. So you could, you'd spin it back and forth like this for that line to come off. And you could actually cast your stuff out there and it'd spin back and forth like that. A lot of people just fished hand line off the side of a canoe. And this is the outfit they used right here. Pretty handy, it does work. That's a piece of bear gut for fishing line. That would be like for grouper and snapper or bigger fish. Your swordfish, you could fish with that. That's kind of what all that is. It's pretty good stuff. This is some of the points. These are bone points. All of these were used for fishing. Used on some sort of a fishing spear. They were used all over. Everybody did it. Here, everywhere. Deer leg will make that. Elk leg will make that. Moose leg will make that. Bear bone will make that. Black bear bone will make that. They're pretty handy points. They work. Believe you me, they work. There's another one, and the style of that point is really neat. That's a neat style. You got room in there for your harpoon line, and you got enough barbed edges on that thing. It ain't coming out. So if you don't use it as a toggling point, you can actually use it to snag them in those grooves. And it does work. I don't like to get one too frisky. A lot of times they'll tear their meat all apart. But there's one that'll hold them right there. They won't get out of that one. They don't get out of that one. And they don't get out of any of them too often. Yeah, they're pretty good points. All right, now, after a while, those guys used to they learned how to take a stick, split it, heat it, and bend it, just like this right here. They stick this on the end of a pole, and they lay it down in a stream. Those fish that come swinging by, they would actually brush the point of that thing as they swam by. Those old guys just snatch them and throw them right out on the bank. Now, they're still doing this. They call it feeling fish. I'm telling you, Austin Hammond used to get up there in the rapids, and I mean, you couldn't see nothing, you couldn't hear nothing. There wasn't no way in the world anybody could feel that fish hit the end of that pole, that stick, barb, or whatever you want to call that thing, hook. But by George, we sat there, Austin sitting there like this. All of a sudden, he snatched that thing, up come that pole, there that fish was. He threw that fish out on the bank. I said, Austin, how in the world you feel that fish in that water running like that? Oh, we had to learn. We had to learn. Here's another one that they developed that it was a little stronger. It's wrapped with spruce root. Got a bare bone point on it. You lay it down in the water the same way. Put it on a pole just like that right there. That dead blame fish come by and do that, snatch him, throw him out on the bank. That's a good one, believe you me. I've used this one myself on fish I can see. Oh, Lord. Okay. Huh?
Can you turn this way and let these guys?
So I didn't know. I'm sorry. There we go. Y'all didn't get to see that, did you? All right. All right. Do you understand what I said about it? Okay. That's a good one. That's sure enough a good one. That worked pretty good. It's pretty strong. Yeah. All right. Now, one of the next things that came along would be a toggling harpoon. It was used on a lot of big fish. It was used on seal. It was used on, well, down here, they used it on porpoise. They used it on manatee. They ate manatee and porpoise. And you hit one of them, the first thing they want to do is go to the bottom. And pretty strong. It's hard to get them back up. You got to let them wear themselves out, bleed out, do something out. But they would do it, and you could pull them out. You took like a lance pole, for instance, all right? You split your lance pole. Let me see, everybody can see me. You'd split your lance pole and tie it around right here. You split it down and carve it out. You fit this down in it. You shape it and all that. Now, in the end of it, you got a hole in there, all right? That hole, well, I hadn't even finished this one. I got a smaller one up here that I like, that I have finished, close to finish. What did I do with it? Oh, there it is. You drill that hole in there, and then you slip a piece of elderberry. In this part of the country, you could use American Beauty to put down in there. It's almost the same kind of thing. And you take your foreshaft, like I've got it right here. That's the way your foreshaft looks. That's the harpoon point. It's basically a fish point. This one is. You could take game with it, when you see the one with the point like this, that's usually for fish. Yeah, lanyard on this thing is what you tie your harpoon line to. Your harpoon line is tied to this. And, well, I'll show you some harpoon line. Let me get where was that? There it is right there. Yeah. Let's see. Okay, no, I think the whole roll. It's in a whole roll.
See where the horn is?
Huh?
See where your cow horn is?
Oh, yeah. No, that's the other. No, this is the one for the fishing. Here it is. I got it right here. I knew it was somewhere. Yeah. All right, now. Okay. This is the harpoon line right here. I hope this thing ain't tied together so well. Okay, now. All right, now. Can everybody see this knot right here? That's called a quick release knot right there. And all it is a piece of antler with 2 holes drilled through it, and you run your line through it. Let's see, did I do that right? I probably didn't. It probably needs to go the other way. How did I do that? Oh, that was the handle end. That's why that's not doing right. Where's the other end? Maybe it's the other end. All right, anyway. All right, yeah, okay, yeah. All right, yeah, that does go around the horn. I can't even get it off. It's not even supposed to come off. That one ain't. That's your handle. That's the little handle so you can hold on to it. You get to the end of that line, and then you can take your line and break it over your knee. Give you some pressure to hold on to him. This is the other end of it. All right, you can see that, how that's tied in, how that thing's looped over. You see that? That's the same way you did let's see, maybe I can get it off of here. It's supposed to be a quick release is what it's supposed to be. And it does work that way when you work it that way. You know what you're doing, you know. Yeah. Did that come loose? Of course not. Oh, Lord, well, anyway, that's what it is. It would be this that would be tied onto this right here. All right, now, it ain't coming undone. It's going to stay with you. And like they say, it's quick release. Get rid of it real quick when you need to. So you put another point on to hit that animal again. When you hit an animal with this, this is designed to come out, all right? It's also tied to the lanyard. That's so, now I can't even get this, my hand won't even twist. That's so this will come off, and I can't even get it to come off. That's in there too tight, all right? I'll have to break it loose later. But anyway, this gives you an idea of what a functional foreshaft is and the way the harpoon point works. How that thing, harpoon line, is attached to it and how it works. Although this is designed for large fish, and I mean big fish, you can go down on the coast down here and hunt stingray with this thing, big ones. They toggle. The point comes out, the point comes off, and that thing toggles like this underneath that animal's skin. Like this would be a better way to do it. It toggles underneath the skin. Now, when you look at something like this, and that thing is toggled in this fashion, it don't come loose. It's there. It's there for the keeping. You got him. Let's see now. Yeah, all right, now. Okay, yeah. Now, all right, now, here's some other, yeah. All right, now. These are some other harpoon points. These are the ones you want for porpoise and all that kind of stuff. toggling harpoon, tied it on that to that, and use this, it comes off. I don't even know if I've got one of those things might fit this. I don't know if I've got one yet. I may have to work one down. Everything ain't complete up here. But the foreshaft comes out, it's attached to this so it won't swim off somewhere. And that thing toggles and it'll hold anything on earth. Now, I can go all the way up to walrus with that size right there. That tells you how powerful these things can hold. Been around a long time. I've got a sneaky idea that the reason the Vikings never stayed here was because they didn't know how to use this and did not learn. The scaly was just too ugly to learn from. So they didn't. And they ended up not being here for some reason. But I've got an idea that one little point right there had a lot to do with it. They could have had all the food they wanted with that right there. It had it right at the front door. It's just all in how you get it. And they use a European way to hunt it. Didn't work. All right, now. See what I got. No, ain't this same thing. There's another one that's a little bit different. The foreshaft goes in here. You got two barbs on the back. You got a barb on the end of this, pretty wide blade. That toggles also. And it'll just cut the daylights out of whatever's inside if it needs to move this way. In other words, if you hit that animal really close to his heart and lung area, that's one right there that just about cut him to pieces. Up in his chest area, you know, if you can get in that deep, it damn sure hurt him. It'll hold them with those double barbs on there like that. That point will hold them. Now, the point on this, all of my points were bone. They're buffalo bone, what you call them bone, brownie bone, black bear bone, this sort of thing. Pretty strong points. This is another, let me think, is this, yeah. Is that one? Probably the same thing. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, that one's not coming out. They get wedged in there sometimes, and maybe they get, I don't know. They're not supposed to stay there, but anyway. Here's one, let me see. All right, yeah, okay. This is one that makes its own foreshaft. This one right here, it has its own foreshaft. It's already together. You don't have to worry about the two coming out. The problem is this foreshaft stays with the point. It's not really a toggling point. It could be made into one just simply by wherever you want to tie the harpoon line or the lanyard for it, light lanyard on one of these. Or you could just put it on the end of a stick and use it as a dispatch kind of a tool. Pretty neat little outfit. You have to cut it out. This is another one that, yeah, this would be for animal. You can get seal, bearded seal with this, all right? Down here, we did have seal up north. I know in Maine, they had a lot of seal coming in those harbors up there. They did when I was up there building a boat. But this little outfit right here, now that acts like it wants to come out of there, yeah. That did it right. And it now. There we go. Now, you hit that animal with that, this comes out and the point comes off, harpoon line is tied onto this. You got a short cord that goes from the lanyard to your foreshaft. It just floats around out there and you go get your lance, your harpoon back. But that's how that works. Did y'all see that down there? Am I turned too wrong? Can you still see? I need something, don't I? I always need something. I need a cigar. Oh, Lord, yeah. Okay. Here's one right here that's being developed. there's a point right there that would fit into that, like that, hole drilled through. The back end of it is carved. We'll grab flesh, toggling harpoon in the process of being one right there. Gonna be pretty neat. This little point, another fish point, is right here. Same as the others that you saw, but that's another fish point. These things work so well. All you have to do is learn how to use them, and it sure makes life pretty easy. I'm telling you, even on mullet runs like they used to be, when those big schools would come into that big old cobalt blueback mullet come running in, you could stand out there with something like this and let them get around you. You could bust them all day long. You'd have fish. You could use your lister spear and get them. Yeah, Lord, you'd have. Of course, I don't know what the government would say. Here's another one of the harpoon points made from wood. Can everybody see that? That's made from serviceberry. Hardwood. It's a dense hardwood with a twisted grain. But it works. It's got its own foreshaft. It will toggle. And believe you me, I've heard of these things being used on men. You know, and a cord on the end of it. You just ride by him, hit him, let the thing jerk. He's in trouble. He's got a hurt going on. I've heard them being used. All right, these are some of my needles up here. Some of these needles are, well, for lashing line and everything when I'm tying hides up to frames, I usually use these two bones on the bottom down here. It makes it a lot easier to get that thread through there so you can lace your hide to a frame. This one, I always use that for making a willow, not a willow, but a cattail tule grass mat. You just cut them, put them out there and let them dry. And then once they're good and dry, no green left in them, you take this and you split the thing. And you run a cattail leaf will be run through the end of it, and you run it back and forth through there, and you weave it. You wind up with one of the nicest, softest mats you ever sat on in your life. They're a good sleeping mat, and they're comfortable. They insulate your body from the ground. A lot of them use folded mats like that just to sit on. They didn't have chairs, you know, they never did do that. They just used that. They were easy to pack. When they used travoy with dogs, it made it a lot easier to pack things like that. But those woven mats were really, really comfortable. And here, they used a lot of cattail for that. And it is nice. I've tried it here, and it is nice. A really nice mat. I wished I had one to show you. I don't. You know, they deteriorate after a while. But they're pretty nice stuff. But that's what I use to thread that stuff together with. So you got a nice wide mat. All right, that's the bone right there. All right, now, what else? Huh?
I'm gonna break it for just a second right there.
All right. This thing a war club. It's not a war club. It's made to dispatch animals. The only time that thing turns into a war club is when you get this collar put on it right here. And that's because you can grab other tomahawks or other war clubs, bows, lances, anything to get them out of your way if somebody wants to come in here and hurt you. This is not an assault weapon. None of the stuff on this table is an assault weapon. This is all defensive. When it becomes an assault weapon, it would usually be on a 6-man raid going in to steal women and steal winter supplies and food, all the necessary things. But that's what these clubs actually represent. This club was used on the eastern seaboard all the way up and down. This club right here was the other one. It was used here as well. Now, this club has a flexible handle on it. When you hit somebody or something in the head to kill it, the shock from that stone and hitting that animal in the head, you feel no shock going up your hand. So you don't hit that jar. This one is the same way. The difference is this club right here has a round stone head. And the neck on that thing has got some flex in it, right there. That absorbs the shock when you hit something in the head. Now, if somebody came to you with bad things on his mind, you threw that in his face and then backhanded him through the head with that. That took care of a lot of things. You could go on and do whatever you needed to do. But still, it's a defensive weapon. It's not an assault weapon. Nothing up here, the bows, the lances, none of this stuff is actually an assault weapon. Most of this stuff is all defensive. Let's see now. Well, this, we use this like a berry smasher. This little club here, use that to smash berries. You make pemmican, dry meat, you know, and smash the berries into the dry meat, all that sort of thing. I've used this to actually cut wood with. It's not appropriate. It needs to flare a lot more here, but that's the first one I ever made. So I was allowed a mistake or two. Anyway, this one is a little different. That's an Assiniboine club. This is the only thing I know of that you might consider an assault weapon. It was called a swinging rock. And I don't know of any other group of people other than the Assiniboine that used this, unless maybe some of the Sioux duplicated some of the stuff that they had. It was possible, Assiniboine or Sioux. So it is possible that they did do it, but they're the only ones that I know of. That's a marble stone right there. How long did it take Betty to make that?
5 days pecking it down before it's finished.
The stone. And then we had to peck, you know, around to make the groove. And had to polish it on the end of a cottonwood log that you'd burn. Had to polish it all down, you know. But that's what that is, okay? Only one that I know of that I could actually say was probably more of an assault weapon than it was any other thing. There wouldn't be much sense trying to use that to dispatch something. It would bust the skull all to pieces, and then you wouldn't have the brains, you know, to tan that hide with if you did that. Too much bone all in it. Probably couldn't get the bone out, a brain out. All right, atlatls, okay. All right, now, this atlatl is actually Eskimo. It was used from a kayak sitting on their little fanny in that kayak, and they'd hunt when ducks started to molt. Of course, they had a bunch of little ones with them all the time. This atlatl was the one that was used for that. The atlatl dart that come off of this thing was thrown sidearm. It was a sidearm throw. And when it does that, that dart does just like this. It's got 3 or 4 prongs on it that stick out like that. When it hits them ducks, it gathers the wings, you gather up their neck, you gather up anything. And so you've got your animal, you got your duck. When they hunt seal, they'd come down and they'd use the bottom prong on that. Duck was up here. The other one was right here. And the reason is they're throwing heavier darts. They're not throwing the lightweight darts. In either case, they're throwing a heavier dart. It was because of the material they had. So it's a shorter throw, but it's got a lot more power in a short distance. That means if you got your cap on and your eyes covered up, you paddle up, you got a seal out there right there. You use that atlatl with a normal throw this way, dart would go straight. You use this, you could throw it hard and you get a deep penetration. You had to do it because you're using the point of that thing would have to be like a toggling harpoon point. And you'd have to use that to get that harpoon point deep enough into the fat of the flesh, you know, to catch him up on the lanyard, you know, up on the harpoon line. Can y'all see me down there? Hear me? Okay, okay. But that's what one of those looked like. It was from that point that we went on to a normal, what I call a normal atlatl, a little bit longer. And the one I used to hunt with, the one I really, really like, is one I made the measurement for it. Jamie, I think that short one right there. There's two of them there. Yeah. Okay. This is my favorite. I love this. It's made from mock orange. It's got a little bit of flex in it, just a little bit of flex. The molecular motion or whatever it is between the end of this thing and a dart, it just seems to come together really good. It stacks up kinetic energy. And this thing will hum a dart now. It will throw a dart. I like to use the lightweight ones. Here, they used a lot of river cane, small diameter, good dart. They used it for arrows. They used it for atlatl darts. Atlatl came long before anything else. They used it a long time. There were a lot of materials in the southern part of the United States that they could gather for darts. They didn't have to use just river cane. That American Beauty that we have here at G. Thornton, I think some of you guys know G. He's here today. Showed me that that's what it was. I was cutting shafts, and one day I asked G, I said, G, can you make some wine out of elderberry? Yeah. I said, well, I think I know where some is. So I went back and I got a whole bunch. I got just enough in the bucket to test it to see if that was right. And I carried it back up there to him, and G looked at it, and he said, Jack, he said, that's American Beauty. I didn't know what you call it. I said, well, it's almost identical. The leaf and the shoot that runs up is so tall and long. It's almost identical to elderberry. He says, yeah, they look a lot alike. But anyway, that's what it wound up being, was American Beauty. And now you talking about an atlatl dart, it's just as good as an elderberry dart ever was. And I love elderberry. I love it for moose, I love it for elk, I love it for mule deer, white-tailed deer. It don't make no difference. I've killed 2 turkey with them. And, but that's how you use that thing. It's right there. And the measurement on that thing, from the very tip of that spur to the very center of that handle, is the measurement between the end of my finger, right, my middle finger, and my elbow. It all matches. It just all matches the way it's supposed to. That's where it comes to, unless I've shrunk, which I probably have. But I tell you what, I've never enjoyed, that's called a basket maker's atlatl. Come from the Great Basin. And it tickles me to death. I love it. It's the best hunting atlatl I've ever used. The other atlatl that was over here beside it is a little bit longer. And we were out there just playing one day using a cattail for an atlatl dart. Now, you know how light a cattail is. All you have to do is put a foreshaft on it that weighs about 7 times more than the shaft. And the shaft don't weigh nothing. This is the one that's a little bit longer. And we were throwing a cattail dart 150 yards with this thing. So that gives you an idea how effective these things can be. They've got a lot of power. They got a lot of distance on them. There's some tales about Cortez going to the mouth of the Mississippi River. He had made an armor to protect himself against arrows. And he used kapok, which is cattail, and canvas, sail canvas. He had it all sewed together to make an armor. Well, he got down to the mouth of the Mississippi River, and those Indians down there attacked him. They were using the atlatl, they were using a baton There's the baton right there, Jamie. Right there. That's it, right there. Yeah, that's it. Now then. They were using this little outfit right here. Nothing but a piece of antler, right? The kids were given arrows, just about the same shape as an arrow. The little cord on this thing was wrapped around the arrow shaft like that, and it was held tight enough that when they threw it, that arrow would spin. Believe it or not, that arrow can travel 300 yards. Now, those kids were running from bush to tree to bush to tree, just popping around like a rabbit. And every time they'd do it, wham, they'd throw one of those arrows. Those old Spaniards they were ducking and darting. The old men, the old seasoned warrior, was sitting back here behind some trees, and they had the regular atlatl that they used. And they were throwing those atlatls at them, and like scared Cortez to death. Those darts were going through the man and his horse. Scared him to death. They couldn't get out of there fast enough. They wanted to go to Mexico quick. Well, they did make it, some of them. But that's how effective that atlatl is. It held on so long that the actual bow and arrow has not been a prevalent tool in America except for the last 2,000 years. It's very young in this part of the world. They got good at building them, but they had a long way to go before they perfected them to what they could have been. We always talk about English archery. They had them beat 10-1. Our Indians had them beat. What's that back there in the back with a hand? Oh, that's a picture, okay. The English bow was nowhere near as good as the American flat bow. And that's what these Indians use, especially in this part of the world, as a blanket too. Yeah, all right, let's see, Jamie. We can just lay that there. Okay. There's a long bow right here. It's got a lot of writing on it. No, there's a shorter ones back this way. There's one right in here. I think it's got the writing all over it. Let's see. Yeah, that's the one. Let me see that. All right, now. Okay, this bow is in the process of being made. Still got to be tillered out pretty well, but not much. It was a shooter at one time, but it shot in the handle. Now, the measurement is taken from a bow that was taken from an Indian in Massachusetts when he was raiding a family home, a homestead up there. They killed the Indian, and the man took his bow. Well, the bow, I guess, was given to Princeton, and they put it in the was it Princeton? No, it wasn't Princeton. It was that other university, Peabody Museum. They kept it all these years. The bow's still there. And the measurement on that bow is the same as the measurements here. I patterned this bow after that bow. Get it right. That bow was so tillered, I believe you could take it off the wall and go shoot it today. No backing on it. It's just a good bow, made from wood. Actually, we think it was made from red hickory, but it was quite a bow. This bow is being patterned after that. The nocks, between the nocks are the same distance. The tips are the same distance away. A lot of the measurements down through the limb are pretty much identical. The difference is this wood is maple. That's hard rock maple. So it's going to be real interesting to see how it shoots. We know they used it. The other bow up here that's long, that's in that tube or in that channel line, yeah, I think that's it.
You want me to pick it up?
Well, just lift it so they can see which one it is. Yeah, all right. Now, that is a hickory bow. I got to go to Bill's with that one. But that is a hickory bow. It's of the same measurement, will be. But that was used all up and down the eastern part of the United States. you're trying to tell me something. What is it? Move? Oh, okay. Well,
Running out of time.
I'm running out of time. I always run out of time. Oh, I can't even smoke a cigar without running out of time.
Quiver, bows, lances.
All right, okay. All right, well, that kind of covers the eastern, all right? Now, the western, I see, Jamie. Well, I was going to string that bow, but I don't think we got time. Let's gather up some of those arrows you got right there, and just grab a fistful of them. Just get the whole bunch of them in one fist. There we go. And take them down and let those people, just let them see what they are.
Okay.
That's the real thing right there. I've hunted a lot of game with arrows like that. But now they are a plain style arrow that I can shoot in an eastern bow. But they got stone points on them. They got bone and antler points on them. And they're very, very effective. Huh? Horn what? Bow? Oh. All right, yeah. All right. That's it right there. This is the mountain sheep horn bow. This is something you'll probably never see again. This thing right here is made from the ram's horn of a mountain, say like bighorn sheep. I use doll sheep. This particular bow is stone sheep. It's a crossbreed between a Rocky Mountain bighorn and a doll sheep. But the thickness of the horn is like a doll sheep. That thing's almost this thick. That allows me to take the chip off, take the belly part of it off and smooth it out to put sinew on, and I can pick what I want from supple material inside the limb. This is not a string you pull. That bow bends back in the opposite direction like this, okay? This bow has a cupid shape to it. It's a double curved bow. It'll stack kinetic energy like you won't believe. Osage orange, which is our best bow wood, has a compression strength of about 10,000 pounds per square inch. That sheep horn has a compression strength of about 26,000 pounds per square inch. The sinew on the back of this bow matches that. All I can say is, whoo! That was their atomic bomb. They would not tell white man about this bow at all. That's the bow that sued Custer, right there. That got him. They hid a lot of those bows after that war was over with, that battle. And now there's a reservoir over the cache. Nobody can get to them. We don't even know where they are. Now we know what's over them, but we don't know where the cache is. But that's what that is. Snake skin over it. The Indians do not like to touch things with snake on it, okay? It's a religious thing. They think snake people ruled earth for a very, very long time. They will not touch that snake. If they found this on the battlefield, wouldn't touch it. All right, the guy from the tribe that made it, he might not touch it either, but he can go tell the shaman to come get it. But that's what that is. That thing. It also has a handle. I use a brain tan handle with otter fur here, and a little piece of ermine. It takes away your eye. They look at that, and of course, you know, like I say, you're shooting this way. You're shooting flat. But that's it. That's the atomic bomb right there. They wouldn't tell anybody about it. I guess what, Betty? Quivers? Yeah, okay, Jamie, let's see. Do you know how to lift that quiver right there? I'll come get it. Oh, okay, yeah, All right, Jamie didn't know what it was. All right, yeah. All right, Tom, let's see. Let me grab all right, there. Yeah, okay. Let me see if I can get through all this without dumping the arrows out. These things are kind of special. This is a hunting quiver. You don't see this on TV very often because they don't know what they're doing. But I'm left-handed. I'm not right-handed, so I made this quiver for a left-handed archer. I have to wear mine. I have to wear mine on the right side like this. But that allows me to draw my arrow out this way, low, put it on the bow, and shoot it this way with the bow laying kind of flat, all right? I'm not sitting here reaching over my back and waving at everybody in the country. I'm not telling everybody where I am. I'm not telling game animal where I am. You know, it just comes right out of the quiver, really easy. And kind of, can y'all see that down there, how that's worn? All right, this is a bow case is what this is. It has another bow in it right here. It's being made. I just stuck it in here to kind of keep that bow case doing like it's supposed to. And that's probably crooked. Yeah. Feels crooked anyway. Anyway, if I was running through the woods, if somebody got after me, I had to run through the woods. What I would do, oh Lord, watch me do it backwards, all right? Yeah, and I did too. Usually you just spin it. You spin it, you don't have to go through what I'm doing. Yeah. It winds up like that. You can run through the woods, you ain't gonna lose your arrows, and the brush will hit this and not break anything. If you're on horseback and you're tired, you got a lot of weight on you, you know you're wearing a war shield, you're wearing this, probably got a lance. God knows what all you got, you know. So then you'll take your quiver, pull it around on your back, wear it across your shoulder. If you don't get it hung up in your collar. There we go. There, I about got it now. All right, I about got it. There we go, but you'd wear it kind of in this fashion across your back. Now, your war shield will be over the top of your quiver. It's worn in the same fashion over your quiver. That keeps somebody from coming up behind you with a war club and smashing your arrows. They did a lot of that. They tore up a lot of stuff if you didn't have it covered up. They break your knife. That's why a lot of knife cases were made, when knives were made with a stone blade, they made a rawhide case, a heavy rawhide case to protect that knife blade. So somebody couldn't hit it with a war club and break the blade. All right? Now, you ain't gonna get this on. But anyway, that'll give you a bit of an idea of how the quiver is. That's the other quiver up there was a quiver I've used all over the world. I think everybody in the world knows that quiver. That one, yeah, just lift it. That's it. That quiver right there. Everybody in the world knows that quiver. All over the United States. Let's see, what's down there below there, Jamie? Knives. Tomahawk. All right, there's a good one. That came about doing trade days after white people got here. Let me see what I got. I don't even know what I got right now. I probably won't be able to show you a lot about them, but all of them are covered. Let me do this. Let's see, I think that might be the one I really want. This is, all right, now, I'll just show you this one. This tomahawk right here, some friends of mine who were building that 50 caliber Hawkins rifle down in the Bitterroot Valley. One of those boys went up to Kalispell, and they had a curator outfit up there where you walk in and bought them old kind of stuff, antiques. They walked around and looked on the wall, and they saw a tomahawk sitting up there. They picked that thing up and looked at it, and they thought it looked kind of neat. It actually had a pipe bolt on the back end of it right there. Then looked at it again, the handle had a hole in it. That was an original. So they bought it for $3. One of those boys was born and raised in Washington, D.C. He went home for Christmas that year and took that tomahawk with him, went by the Smithsonian, and they told him, they checked it out, and they told him that that was a 1700 English trade tomahawk. Well, boy, we had something then. So they took it and made a cast, and we recast that tomahawk head. And they did a very fine job. That thing right there shave you. I don't like to mess with it much. But I can cut these canoe paddles out with it. It does a good job of that. It sure does a good job of that. And you can stay on line with it. It's so balanced the way it's built. It's got that circle in the center of it. And for some reason, that does have something to do with the balance of these tomahawks and the way they operate. They surely work, I can tell you. I've never had anything that I can take a pencil or I can take a ink pen or whatever, whatever you call them things, and mark a straight line, by using a yardstick or, ruler. I can mark a straight line. I can take that tomahawk. I can cut that piece of wood right down that doggone straight line on a 2x4. Now that's doing some work. That tool is doing some work, and it's real work. Oh boy. Now, this is the Hudson Bay knife is what this is. This knife was in the hands of the Indians from East Coast to West Coast 150 years before Lewis and Clark ever showed up out west. It weighs a pound. This particular one, I had it made. I had it made out of D2 steel, and believe you me, it is sharp. They beveled the knife blade on one side. One side. This side is flat, this had a bevel. They could take that knife and turn that knife over like this and put it on a tripod deal, tie that thing down. They could run their canoe ribs over it, and it would plane the edges of it. They didn't have to carve them. They could plane it, and it'd run off on those curly slivers. Sometimes you undo it, don't think it'd be 2 feet long. Just beautiful stuff. It was also used to make jerky. You come down and cut that hind quarter or whatever right down. If you wanted to use that knife to take the bone off, you could. If not, you can make more splits and then just come back this way. And then you take those pieces and just split them flat, 1/4 inch, 2 inches wide, 1/4 inch thick. And they did it with that knife. All right, now if they had to take hair off a hide, on a fresh deer hide or whatever, that knife, the back of that knife was used to do that. When the old people lost their teeth, and of course they had little young'uns, if they ever got in a situation that they had to feed them dry meat, jerky, the back end of that thing right there, that drop point, that's where the drop point came from, was pounding that stuff, softening it up so old people and little kids could eat it. All right, now, this case, I was so impressed with the knife. I made the case out of buffalo. It's sewed together with a double line of bear gut. And I had a good friend of mine. She died 2 years after she did this. She's the one that did the beadwork on this thing for me. $50. She did that beadwork. That's overlay. That's not sew lazy stitch. Every bead is sewed down. Every one of them. It's tight. I don't know what it would take to tear it up. It's just wonderful beadwork. But Blackfeet did that. They were one of the few that ever did that. Most of the others did a lazy stitch, but not the sew. Okay, Jamie, what we got? Oh, Lord, all right, yeah. Okay, now, Oh, now, we're getting serious now. All right, this is the horse lance. This is what the American government would not tell cavalry recruits about this. No, no. This weapon was what was actually used against the Army. It was based in pattern on a Spanish sword blade, all right? The way it was used, well, they actually carried the thing sometimes over their back, and they carried it with that strap over their back with the point down. But the way that thing was used, it's kind of like this. I need to be back a little further. Let's see if I can get back a little further with it now. See if I can do that, all right? Okay, now, the way that thing was used, guy would be on horseback and you'd have your soldier enemy sitting up here in front of you, all right? You'd come down like this, low. You're on your horse, you come by him, you'd hit him like this. Your horse, now he's gonna crumple up a little bit. You're gonna come by him like this, you're gonna lock that lance behind your back, and you got that lanyard on there. That thing ain't coming off your arm. But I tell you what it's gonna do, what that blade's gonna do, it's gonna catch up against his spine, and then it's gonna cut him around his body, and his guts are gonna fall, or all he's got up in here is gonna fall right out on the ground. He is done for. He will not fight that day. That day is over with, but that's what that is. And they never told those kids about that. Probably a good thing. We'd have never had a cavalry. But I love this thing. Oh, Lord, yeah.
Okay, Jack,
All right,
we're running out of time.
yes.
You have this you have to read.
Oh, my God almighty, I gotta read this. Oh, where's my glasses, darling? Oh, Lord. I bet she's got that prophet's bear. God almighty, yeah. Oh, Lord, thank you, ma'am. All right, now. I'll try to get through this. Sometimes I break up trying to read this. I know what it means. I don't know if any of y'all, no, that's the wrong glasses, Betty. My reading glasses.
That ain't bad, Jack.
Huh?
That ain't bad.
There you go.
Oh, that's him. All right, yeah.
Switch.
There we go. Thank you. All right, now, how many of you guys remember old man Russell Annabelle? They used to write articles for Sports Field magazine probably 50 years ago. Yes, sir, you know it. Randy knows it. Well, when I became a member of OWAA, Outdoor Writers Association of America, publishing a few magazine articles here and there, I had a chance to go up to one of the meetings in New York. 3 o'clock in the morning, I had a bam, bam, bam on my door. I got up and went to the door. He says, Jack, I need some help. He said, Russell Annabelle is in jail and we got to go get him out. I said, what happened? He says, well, you know, he's 73 years old and he just tore up the local whorehouse. And they went and got him and put him in jail. I said, yeah, let's go get him. Sounds like a man after my own heart. So we did. We went down there and we got him. He was all flustered up and puffed up. He was wanting to fight some more. He went with us, though. We had to go by the bar, had to get him settled down a little bit. Finally got him up to the hotel and got him in a room and got him to bed about 5:30 in the morning. But I got to know Russell pretty well. He just lived north of Wasilla in Alaska up there. And he wrote an article about that time in that area after that, but it was in that time frame. It was called The Prophet's Grizzly. And what it was is a story about the Kanika Indians having to leave their home because somebody wanted to build a damn town. And the town, of course, was Anchorage, Alaska. So I had heard this, read the article. I knew what Russell had on his mind when he wrote it. I knew the Indians he was talking about, knew what had taken place, knew what had happened after that. And while I was actually up there where they lived, I knew how they were living because of it. It like to broke my heart. And I ended up writing this poem. I came back down here. My brother-in-law was Elwin Blanton. And Elwin and I got our horses. We went up to where Elwin used to live, close to Huntsville, Alabama. Sand Mountain, I guess it was. And we kind of hung around there for maybe a night. And then we saddled up and started riding, crossed the Tennessee River in the middle of the night on horseback, and finally got on up on the other side of Huntsville. Went on up toward Paint Rock, and we got kind of held up at Paint Rock, and there was a big rock wall, just huge boulders. Couldn't get over it. We were trying to get to Winchester, Tennessee, and just couldn't make it over the mountains. Couldn't get the horses over. So we broke out the bottle, and we committed the sin. All right? And at that time, both Elvin and I did do a terrible thing once in a while, didn't we, Tom? But anyway, I sat there at that fire that night. I had a piece of birch bark right there that looked pretty nice. I peeled it off the tree, and I sat down. We had a matchbox out there full of matches. And I'd sit there and light them matches, and I started writing the only poem I've ever written in my life. And it was about Russell Annabelle's story. So I'll read it to you. I hope I can get through it. Sometimes I can, sometimes I don't make it. And if I don't, Tom, you got to finish it. All right, yep, the prophet's bear. With hair like, I can't see. All right, yeah, all right. With hair like fire and glacier ice eyes, the young foreman patrolled the image this Chinook shaman had learned to despise. Hands on his hips and through thin lips, he said, "Chief, tell these people their village must go. You see, this crew is surveying the land. You're in the way of a new railroad." In anguished silence and great reserve, the shaman's eyes passed the sky and reached the sanctity of heaven. For this night, he must speak to his people, smoke a prayer, and hold a great council with the raven. Now, I don't know if you guys know it, but they have a very religious association with the raven. We can talk a lot about that. 3 days passed, the canoes were loaded, and upstream they made slow headway. Food was short from the boats they hunted, and they looked for a home they could stay. Speaking gentle to his people, the shaman spread his aging hands across the land. For upstream in desperation, a young blonde bear swam swollen currents. Damn it. To lay his paws upon dry ground. The ancient shaman lowered his eyes and took a small child by the hand. And with tender tones of wisdom, spoke these words for every man. Hear these words and do not kill him. Let this yellow bear live to be your mark in time. For everybody knows it's the bear that goes ahead of encroaching man. It's true, people. 12 years had passed since the prophet's prayer, and the child had become a young man,
huddled in the warmth of a trapper's shack, ravaged by a Chinook wind. And in that April darkness, when avalanches send, a great unearthen creature smashed the door and boldly stepped within. Gripped by fear and anger, the young man yelled. The bear whirled to run. Too late had come the warning. The damage has been done when the dark night cracked with thunder and a flash from the young man's gun. Now written in the laws of man, a wounded bear must die. So the young man lit a light and searched the snow for sign. Alone beneath the darkest sky, his great fears were answered by a patch of golden hair. And in that black of darkness came the ancient prophet's prayer. Do not kill him. Let this yellow bear live to be your mark in time, for in his veins flows the blood of the land and strength for all mankind. 12 years had passed. His task was done. When the degradation came from a friend, there's word going round, we'll have a new town. This valley was bought by a man. But the funny thing was, the deed was signed in the face of this Chinook wind. The young man touched a yellow patch of hair, then spoke in tones so tame, for these things I alone bear the shame. I've just killed the prophet's bear. Hear these words and do not kill him. Let the yellow bear live to be your mark in time. While he stands, you can keep this land free from the progress of man. So let him live to be your mark in time. Everybody knows when the grizzly bear goes, time is short for mankind. Thank you. That's hard for me. That's hard for me. Okay, Tom, what's next?
3 minutes left for questions.
All right.
Sorry, but if anybody would like to ask
I got a question. Anybody got a cigar?
if you have a question, like come up right up here and ask it, that'd be great. So I can get good sound.
You want me to come on?
Yeah, come on in.
Okay. I don't have a question, I got a comment.
Uh-oh.
I got one question, Barry.
All right. I'm open.
I think it's kind of ironic. I don't know if these boys from Irving County know what ironic means. But anyway, I think it's ironic that you talk about Indians. And Irving County is full of the Irving County Indians football team. Isn't that right? That's your Irving County Indians. And my other question is, when the bow used deer's tendon, when that tendon got wet,
That's
did
right.
it stretch?
Yes, it did. It come apart.
Yes.
Now,
Yeah.
if you're using a bowstring,
Yeah.
you use your pitches, your pine pitches and your tars. You rub that into that bowstring with beeswax, and you can actually get that bowstring hard, and it will ward off water. One thing about beeswax, there ain't no waterproofing material in the world like beeswax. It will waterproof, and so will that pitch. So you can make quite a bowstring out of that. You can also add Spanish dagger.
Yeah.
You can add some of that as a cordage to reinforce the sinew. Makes a good bowstring. It makes a good string for a bow drill, for drilling a fire.
Okay. Yeah, I'm 70 years old. Back when I was in high school, whenever we played the Irving County Indians, I got scalped every game.
Y'all got scalped every game. Well, I tell you, don't feel bad about it. You know what Osceola's name was, don't you? Osceola.
Yeah, yeah.
That's right. Means black drink singer.
Back then, the Black drink.
Black drink singer.
Yeah, black drink.
That's right.
Okay, one more question. Would you come up to the mic?
Wait a minute. Whoa. What was it, dear?
We are gonna run out of time. If you come to the mic, that'd be great.
Jack, I'm not familiar with your history, but you seem to have spent a lot of time with First Nations people.
Oh, okay.
How can we, as non-First Nations people, help protect their legacy and their lands? What can we do individually to help them?
Talk to them. Listen to what they have to say. Go learn their dances. Learn their songs. Learn their prayers. Go to what they call church, okay? It only happens when the thunder starts. They open the thunder bundle. There's probably, on the Blackfeet Reservation today, there's about 15 to 17. When I was out, there was about 3. But that is a powerful, powerful bundle. And once you understand it, and they explain to you what's going on, and you understand it, then you begin to understand the naturalistic life way.
What can we do politically? What can we do politically to help preserve this culture that's indigenous?
You know, it takes a willing mind, and they may not want your help. They just assume you go away. Even with your help, you know how many archaeologists would come out, we want to study you, we want to this and that, you know. They get sick of it, they get tired of it. They just want you to go away, leave us alone. Let us live the way we want to live. Now, they can't do it. You know, today, they don't know their songs, they don't know their prayers. It's mostly forgotten. They're trying to regain it for tribal identity, but they got to make it up as they go. It's rough, it's hard on them. And all we can really do is just listen to them, talk to them.
But do they want us to listen and talk?
It depends on who you are. It depends on, after you've been around them for 2 years, they'll begin to accept you or not. If they don't, walk away. If they do, you can go a little further. Then you can go a little further with them. You can learn more. Pretty soon you get down to where you can talk to the shaman. You get to talk to the medicine man. That's the man with the knowledge. He knows all about up here. That's where religion comes from. Great man above. You know, we talk to great man above. They talk with great man above. And that's the way they explain it to you. So you got to think about that one. That's right.
Okay, I'm afraid we're running out of time. We're not going to get able to pack Jack's stuff up before we have to close this up. I want to thank Jack. Thank you very much for coming out tonight.
Well, I appreciate you guys showing up. I'm sorry we got cut short, but Lord, have mercy. Woo!